Dr. Tony Allen, welcome to Profile.
Hello, sir. How you doing? Good to be here.
I'm pretty good. How are you doing as well?
I'm fantastic. My first time in Jamaica. I'm delighted.
Well, happy to have you here. Happy to have you on Profile, especially in light of all of the different kinds of accomplishments. And I have to actually refer to my notes here because there are so many. So you're the 12th president of Delaware State University,
That's right.
Founding president of the Metropolitan Wilmington Urban League,
Yes.
Co-founder of the Public Allies Delaware, and chair emeritus of the National Urban Fellows, among a list of other kinds of accomplishments, including being a speechwriter for current president, well, then he was senator at the time, Joe Biden. And when you look back at all of these different kinds of accomplishments, how do you feel?
I feel blessed. I feel very fortunate. My background would not suggest that I would have had those opportunities. But my mother in particular, who just passed away earlier this year, had one thing in mind for me, which is to have a better life than she had. And she saw education as the key to that. So every opportunity that came to me, I felt like was divinely inspired. I didn't always seem like the road was straight, but I am now in the job that I had prayed for, and the one that I was happy to see my mother have an opportunity to see me take charge of. So I'm very, very excited about what this represents, not just for me or my family, but for the thousands of students in Delaware, in the U.S., and now across the world that get the opportunity in the same way that I have had it in my life.
I want to talk a little bit about that, the impact of education in your life. But before we get to that, a little bit about your mother, because
Sure.
you, in many of the speeches and many of your appearances, you speak a lot about the kind of role that she had in your life. What did your mother do that was so important to shaping your life?
It was really by her example. It was not as much what she said to me. I just watched her life. My mother grew up in Jacksonville, Florida, got pregnant when she was 17. And 17 in Florida then, you could not be in public high school. So she got kicked out of high school with ignominious shame, had to move with her sister in Newark, New Jersey, just to have me. And when she describes that feeling, which she hadn't described for a long time in her life, you could see the hurt in her eyes. But when she came back to Florida, we spent 3 years, the first 3 years of my life there, you could also see a change, that her one responsibility was to make sure that I had a better life than she had. She, as they say in America, she understood the assignment and went about the business of putting me in an environment in Delaware where I was able to connect with people who opened doors for me throughout my life. But it was really my mother's impetus and her belief in God and what she believed he had in store for me, for her, and our family that has really driven me throughout my life.
So where was your father in the mix?
He was not, actually. And I used to hold that against him a bit, but now I'm in a point in my life, when you have that kind of circumstance, you think you're running away from that kind of man. But if you don't try to really understand who that person is, instead of running away, you find yourself running in a circle. So now I'm trying to do a better job of understanding who he was, trying to be much more forgiving in that regard, particularly since my mother has passed away, and make sure that I'm understanding the lessons so I'm not making the same mistakes that they had to my children.
What was she saying to you about him?
Not much.
Growing up?
Not much.
Nothing at all?
It was really about being focused on being a better man. And actually, I did not connect those dots when I was growing up, but she was always very focused on making sure that I was respectful, that I was thoughtful, that I was kind. Whatever lot in life I found myself in, I had the thought and sensitivity to make sure that I was giving back in a thoughtful way, and that I was God-fearing. And believe me, Archie, I didn't always hit the marks along my life, but with her by my side, in many ways, she was God's grace in my life. So it has been a big loss for me, but also the lessons, you never forget them. They're embedded in your heart, and it helps me move forward every day.
What did she explain why he was not in the mix, or why rather was he not in the mix?
Long-term drug problem.
Okay.
So that he had not kicked for many years, and it was not appropriate, and I agree with her decision, obviously, for him to be around. Thankfully, She was able to marry a man who gave us our name, a guy named Lamar Allen, who was a great father to me for the time that they were together. That ultimately didn't work out, but he passed away in 1990, and I remember him deeply as my father.
No, in terms of the community that you're growing up with, in two different kinds of communities. First, Jacksonville, I believe, in Florida.
Jacksonville, Florida.
And then going to Delaware. What was the community like?
It's different, you know. I just took my daughter, my 14-year-old daughter, back to Jacksonville for her first time in Jacksonville. And that community is very small, deeply rural. They call, where my mother grew up, they call it literally out home. So just think about what that might mean. So you get off the highway, get off the dirt road, and then you're out home, right? And you know everybody on that block, and many of them are related to you. It's just a very different, and in some ways, spiritual kind of experience for me. Every time I go there, it's like, it's literally like going back home, but there's an awakening around it, that generations of folks who look like me, who love me, who are related to me, are all from that area. Delaware is different in that way. It's what we call up north, but it was a good experience for me too, because the background of experience and diversity I found in my neighborhood, in my schools, really helped me to understand how to interact with anybody, regardless of what they look like, where they come from, or who they love.
So when you said this background of diversity, you're meaning that white people, black people, what was the sort of composition of that community?
It's pretty funny. I grew up in a lower middle income to poor white neighborhood. And there was lots of black smatterings, but it was really lower middle income. And that experience is different because we're all sort of in a little bit of a struggle together. And so I didn't really have the experience of really talking with or interacting with well-to-do folks until I was in the 6th grade, about 12th grade or so. And that experience was different too, because it didn't really matter what they looked like either. You know, I had the opportunity to spend time with folks who had families that were very well-to-do, that were African-American, white for sure, Asian, and the like. And being able to move in those different worlds actually was very helpful to me as I moved forward too. There was a program in Delaware called the Forum to Advance Minorities in Engineering. Every summer, from the 6th grade to the 12th grade, they had 6 weeks of school for these promising, talented kids. And in going through that process, it is the reason I very firmly believe that I actually went to college, because it was the first time I was with people where college going was a part of what you did. And so being able to live in that world and then come home and live in a different world, as I said, has really given me an opportunity to know how to understand and interact with folks, recognize that nobody is above me or beneath my expectation either. So really being able to service those words, I think has helped me tremendously, regardless of the jobs I've had in my life.
I want to talk a little bit about, that experience of going to the university that you now leave, but we have to go to a break.
Okay.
So we're going to take a break first on profile, and then after the break, we're going to be talking about how that experience of that diverse upbringing of the sense of community helped to shape my guest's life and and what he brings to the job that he has now. My guest is the president of Delaware State University in the United States, Dr. Tony Allen. Profile returns right after these messages.